Good evening, everyone. Today's the live where we're going to be having Barry speak about his spiritual journey in connecting to spirit and where he started. Just a short update of notices. In-Spiritation will be hosting the usual Friday trans Q&A on 7 o'clock, which will be the Friday this week. We'll notify people when the other Fridays are not available, because we will have churches eventually on it, which I would say is around the 12th of the week. We will have to cancel the meditation, but the meditation for next week as well, the 5th of April, we will still be going forward with that. So what I'll be doing now is I'll just be passing everything over to Barry, and I'll be monitoring the comment section. I do hope everyone can go onto Barry's actual page, because it's more easier to read there. However, just to notify everyone that with the group Abide with Spirit, Elaine will be monitoring the comments in that section. So I'm going to now pass it on to Barry, and thanks everyone for watching this live.
God bless you, Kyle, and thank you very much. Good evening, friends. I love doing these live, and it's nice to come on to the computer and able to talk to people and talk about experiences. And do you know, I've had lots of people in the last few weeks, they keep asking me, Barry, what was it like when you first started to see spirit? What was it like to see well, they didn't call them spirits, they called them ghosts. What was it like to see these earthbound spirits and ghosts and different things? And I'm going to explain a few things to you, my friends. When I was born in 1950, the house I was born in, before it was converted into a house, was an undertaker's. So we used to see them coming out the attic, out the cellar, passes on the stairs. And to be honest with you, I'm one of 9 children, and we were all scared stiff. But because I was the youngest one at the time, I was a case of being put on the end of the bed, right near the attic, and I used to see the attic door open, see spirit come out, and being a little one, I was that scared I'd be screaming. And my brothers, because there were 3 and 4 in a bed at the time, I used to get good hidings left, right, and centre. And it carried on for quite a while like that. And in the end, I realised the best thing to do is don't cry. Don't cry. But believe me, I was still scared. And it was a case of the door had opened, and I'd see the spirits coming out. I'd see the silhouettes. And I'd hold myself in tight, wanting to scream, but daren't scream. And at the same time, seeing them looking at me as they were passing through. But this particular day, I must have been about 3 years of age. A beautiful spirit of a lady came out from the attic, and she slowly come past me, looked at me, and kind of waved, and I could see a smile. And she sat upon the bed. And I'm going to explain to you, my friends, when she sat on the bed, I could feel the bed go down. I felt her hand upon my foot. And she started to speak to me, for I couldn't hear a word she was saying. But I felt so at ease and so comfortable with this beautiful lady, because she put me at ease with the vibrations and the energies. And every night, that lady, for years, she came and sat upon my bed. And eventually I started to get to hear the whispers of her voice. And she called her name, Agnes, Aggie. And we would sit and we would talk. And my brothers, I'm going to be honest with you, friends, they thought I was mad. You're talking to yourself, shut up, we're trying to get sleep, giving me a nudge and a kick. But because I was going along with everything that was there. Spirit was helping me. And I didn't realize at the time, my friends, they were nurturing me. They was nurturing me. But believe me, although Spirit was there for me, helping me the way they were, I can tell you this, my family thought I was completely nuts. And I had to go to the doctors, I had to go to psychiatrists, I had to go for this, that, and the other, sent all over the place, until eventually they took me to a mental hospital where they done the electrode treatment on me, and they turned around and said, this will get rid of it. He won't be seeing anything again. This will get rid of all the bad things and just leave the good. Well, I can tell you, my friends, it didn't. It was just the opposite. All the bad things stayed and all the good things started to go. So I lost quite a few years of my life, but Spirit never left me. Spirit was always there for me. And I can assure you, friends, I am grateful to Spirit in more ways than one. You see, I learned to trust Spirit more than I did man. I trusted them more than anything. And this is why I say to people, trust your guides, trust your helpers, trust Spirit, because they won't fail you, and they really will not fail you. But you know, I'm going to explain, friends. I went to work one day and I was talking to a lovely lady that used to work in the office, and they were talking about spiritualism. And when I say spiritualism, I'm talking about ghosts. And she said, oh, you ought to go to a spiritualist church. She said, I bet you'll get on all right there. I said, I ain't going to them places. She said, I'll tell you what. Excuse me. She said, I'll tell you what. On Sunday, I'll meet you outside Bourneway Spiritualist Church and we'll go together. I agreed to it. And I stood outside the church. And 5 minutes before the service was due to start, she hadn't turned up. So I thought, come on, Barry, be brave. And I went through the door. And as I went through the door, there were a gentleman standing there wearing a black suit, white shirt, black tie, little moustache. And he said, can I help you, lad? I thought he was an undertaker. We're getting ready to run out. I'm not going to lie to you, friends. And he said, I can see you're nervous. And he took me into the church and he sat me down with this beautiful lady. And this beautiful lady, she took my hand. And as she took my hand, she said, you're a natural. I went, you what? She said, you're a natural. I said, you what? She said, you're a natural. Me pretending not to be thick, I said, yes, I am. And after the service, we sat in a kitchen where we were having tea and having a good old chat. This beautiful lady, she was talking and talking and talking. And, you know, just listening to her words, I was lifted on a high. I was full of the energies. Her words were sincere, serene, loving. And I thought, oh my God, this beautiful lady, she's talking to me like this. I'm a complete stranger. And yet I felt as though I was like her son. I felt so close within the energies. And she said, you need to go to a circle and you need to develop. But she said, I'm going to warn you. When you go to an open circle, she said, you can't get away with anything. They're very, very strict. Well, I'd never been to a circle, so I didn't know what to expect. And I'm not lying, friends. I went to a circle and I sat down just like everybody else. And I was sensing spirit around me. I was seeing the silhouettes of spirit around me. But I didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. And there was a lovely lady who was running the circle. And she said to me, she said, have you got anything, young man? And I said, oh, yeah. I said, I can see this, I can see that, I can see. She said, stop, stop before you start. She said, I asked if you could see anything. I didn't want you to give readings. She said, you're not developed enough yet to give readings. I said, well, I weren't going to give a reading. I was just talking about what I was seeing, what I was feeling. And after the circle, she took me to one side. She said, I'm going to tell you, young man. She said, I'd like to nurture you. And she said, if you allow me to do so, she said, I want you to abide by the rules. And I thought, okay, I'll go along with it. And believe me, when I say this to your friends, the circles years ago were never run like they are today. When you sat in a circle years ago, you had to sit with your feet firm to the ground, back up straight, your hands upon your lap with your palms facing towards the ceiling. And you had to learn how to do the breathing technique, which is breathing 10 in, 8 out. And I don't mean going, you're just naturally counting your head, the 10. Then you breathe out and you count the 8, then the 10. And before you knew where you were, you found yourself going dizzy. And you'd pull yourself out of it. And the lady that were running the circle at that time, she said, don't pull yourself out of it, lad. Go with it. She said, because this is you. She said, this is you, what spirit are doing. They're putting you at ease within the body, within the mind, within the heart. They are beginning to ground you. And I turned and said, but I felt as though I'm going to pass out. She said, you will not pass out, believe me. So then I started to continue to do it. And I felt myself going towards the side as though I were going to fall off my chair. I pulled myself back. She said, no, go along with it. Spirit will not let you fall. Believe me, they don't. And I found myself coming into an energy that I'd never experienced before. Because you see, once I'd done the breathing technique, once I'd become grounded, once I had learned how to go into a meditation, spirit opened, mind, voice, heart, tummy, solar plex, base. And you know, when you was in that one-man, when you was at peace with mind, body, and spirit, when you were brought back and they said to you, how do you feel? I felt brilliant, but I tried to move my legs and I couldn't even move them because I was grounded. I was earthed. And it's like wearing lead boots upon your feet. And I was struggling. And I carried on like that for quite a while. And all of a sudden, this lady said to me, she said, you know, young man, she said, you're going to go far in spiritualism, but I'm not the one to help you. I'm going to introduce you to Mrs. Marjorie Backers. And when I say one of the finest mediums, she was, bless her. She's no longer with us. But by God, she made sure that she was a stickler for the rules. She made sure that you done everything the way it's meant to be. I'm saying this to you, friends, because you see, I have been to the modern circles, and I don't mind admitting I have been disappointed. Because you see, they don't go by the way of nurturing you, they go by the way of teaching you. And teaching you isn't the right way. I'm sorry to say it, I have no disrespect for anybody that runs circles and they're trying to do the best they can to bring people forward. But you know, if you look back at our pioneers, they were true. They were true to God, to spirit, to man. And I've always maintained to try and do that myself. So when I go out to do my work, I turn to God, I turn to spirit, and I ask them to take control of me. Because at the end of the day, my friends, It's spirit that does the work, not man. And I'm going to explain to you. I didn't just come into the circle. I didn't just get nurtured by Marjorie and then taken out and put on the platform. I had to go through a lot of things beforehand. And I'm going to explain to you, the first thing was always made for all of us that was in the circle. On a Sunday afternoon, the circle would start at 4. 5:30, it would be finished. 6 o'clock, you were in the church and you were sitting in the congregation. And you had to watch the medium that was on the platform. Watch how they're dressed. Listen to how they speak. Listen to the way they speak, because many will project the voice and you'll see the movement and everything. You have to aspire to their level. And, you know, to be honest, friends, I go to the churches, I sit in the congregation. I haven't found anybody yet that I want to aspire to. Yet years ago, I did. I wanted to be like Marjorie Backers, Barry Alford, Etty Wilkins, and I wanted to be like Ivy Ball. I wanted to be like John Sherwin. I wanted to aspire to their level, because that's what aspiring to the energies of spirit and letting spirit come forward. Now, I'm going to be honest, my friends, and I have been criticized over this and pulled to pieces and everything. Yes, I do speak out about spiritualism. And I speak out about mediums, but I never pull anybody down in the sense of saying their names. What I've always done is I turn around and say to the congregation, the reason I speak out like this, I have seen the best of the best. And I want you to see the best of the best. You see, when you look back in time, and I'm sure that there's many towns and cities that had some fantastic mediums that are no longer with us. But you see, such people like that of, her name's gone from me for a second, it was with me, Pat Beckett from Sheffield, doing Transfiguration. Wow, what an experience that was for me. I'd love you to see something like that. Or Olive Tomlinson from Birmingham, who used to stand on the platform, and when she'd come off and she'd say, look at me. And as you looked at her, the colour of her hair changed, the features of her face changed. You saw your loved ones come through. Try and find that today. Try and find it, because you won't, because there's too many that are doing the teaching of everything, not enough nurturing, bringing forward the spirits. Now, my friends, I've done this work for 44 years. And people of Tehran said to me, Barry, you ought to hang your boots up. You should stop doing it. Well, no, I'm not going to stop doing it. Because you see, as long as there's breath in my body, I'm going to serve God and spirit and help man to understand the truth. Because, friends, I'm going to explain to you, I have never worked in this spiritual movement for profit. Never. I have always given of my all. There's times when I've had no money in my pocket and I've walked 25 miles to the church and 25 miles back. There's times when I've really struggled, but I've gone to the churches and never asked for a penny. And I don't do private readings and charge the earth when people are blooming struggling. And I never, ever asked a church to pay me extra. When I go, I always say to them, I would like you to pay my driver the petrol expenses. Friends, I've spent hundreds. I've spent hundreds in 1 week going to my churches. And I've never had a penny back out of it. And people say, well, where do you get your money? I'll tell you. I save it. I save my money. I struggle. I haven't got a posh house. I haven't got a fast car. And I don't have 5 holidays a year. I put my all into spirit. And do you know, friends, I'm going to say something here. This isn't to offend anybody. This is me being open and honest. You'd be surprised how many mediums will send friend requests. I won't accept them. I won't accept them. And I'll tell you why. At one time I used to. They send you friend requests, but they never speak to you once you've accepted them. You don't know who they are or what they are. And I've learned that what they do is they send you a friend request because you've got so many friends on your list that all they want to do is to get to know your friends so that they can get to add them onto their list so that they can advertise all what they've got to do. Well, I'm sorry, I don't. I don't have to do that because you see, I have lots of friends that are mediums. I have lots of friends that are true to spirit. But do you know, not one of them take advantage of me. None of them. They are true spiritualists. And this is why I want everyone out there to understand Barry Potter. Barry Potter is Barry Potter. But I'm going to give you all a bit of a shock here, friends. I have got a title, and I know some of it would say, yes, it's written across your forehead. My title is Mr. Barry Potter, Leicester's top international trans medium and celebrity. I've worked in Australia, Canada, Switzerland, Germany, America. I've been on the television. I've been on the radio. I've been in the papers. But who am I? Barry Potter. When I go to take a service, I never allow them to put international in front of my name. I don't want them to see a title. I want them to see Barry Potter, the spiritualist medium, one that works true with spirit. And you know, friends, I've got lots of bookings. I don't have to worry about bookings because my churches are loyal to me as I'm loyal to them. But you know, I'm going to explain to you, you know, with developing in spiritualism, I had to go through a period of time of going to experiment. And when I say experiment, you had to go out and investigate. So when it comes to the area of people saying, oh, you ought to go to this place, it's haunted, I'd go. I'd go, and I'd go on my own. Sometimes I'd take people with me, but I'd go on my own. Early hours of the morning, I'd sit in cemeteries from 12 o'clock till 4 o'clock in the complete dark, watching everything that's around me. And yes, friends, though sometimes it was a bit frightening, but at the end of the day, I walked away with an experience. I walked away with an experience that I'll never forget. And you know, I used to take people round to churches years ago and say to them, come and have a look for yourself. There's a church here in Leicester. Unfortunately, and I say unfortunately, I wish they'd get rid of it so that we could go back to the old days. There's a church on St. Margaret's Way called St. Margaret's Church. And at the time, they didn't have a car showroom. It was all black at the back of the cemetery. And at the back of the chapel, here are 2 tombs. And I could go and stand in between them. And I'd ask people to stand roughly about 14 feet away from me. I would feel the energies pulling me into the brickwork of the church. But the people that were standing there, they could see me changing with the big black rimmed hat, that of the long gown, that of the knickerbockers, the black shoes and the silver buckles. And then I'd say to them, right, let's change places so that this isn't just a case of your eyes playing tricks. And the same thing would happen to them. And I would take them around doing this. I'd even been into buildings that have been haunted. I've been picked up, I've been thrown. How many of you mediums out there have gone and experienced this? How many of you can sit and write about your experiences that you've gone through. I could write a book, but it isn't what I want to do. I could write of my experiences for you to read. And I used to do quite a lot until, unfortunately, some very clever mediums thought it was wise to pull me down and turn around and say, these are all stories that you're making up. We're mediums and we've never had experiences like that. And I turned around and said, yes, because you haven't gone out to experience it. And you know, you've got to, friends, you really have got to experience things, because unless you do, how can you stand truly before someone on a platform and speak about something that you don't understand? I'm going to tell you of a very true story going back in the 80s. I used to run 2 open circles, and we'd have as many as 50, 60 people at a time. And this particular day, I was asked by the president of the church, would I mind allowing another medium to come in and run the circle for one night so people could see a different way of working? I said, by all means, I'd love that. And I sat in the circle like everybody else. And this particular medium, she came in, she opened in prayer, and then she turned and said, well, we're going into meditation. We're not having the 20 minutes. We're only having 10. I don't want you standing up giving a load of rubbish. I want to make sure you're giving it from spirit. Well, the energies dropped, and I mean dropped. And after 5 minutes, I can say the circle were over, because you were going round saying, what you got, what you got, what you got. Nobody got anything. And then she came to me and she said, and what have you got? And I said, well, to be honest with you, I've got nothing, but I feel ever so uncomfortable, but I think that's my own doing. She said, dead right, it is, she said. And all of a sudden she started talking about her personal life, and the vibrations went down and down and down. And all of a sudden Spirit said to me, when she draws breath, stand. And believe me, I did. I stood. I know my mouth open, and it was just as though I span round like a top. And what words came out of my mouth from that day to this, I do not know. But when I sat back down in front of 50 people, she said, ladies and gentlemen, this a medium, fornicator, theatrical, not fit to serve the church. I went down like this. And then when I got home, I sat in my living room with the light on, and I broke down and I cried. And all of a sudden, my living room, there was like a grey mist that was building up. And right at the side of me, if you can imagine a Roman candle, the sprinkling of the sparklers as they're going up, a man appeared in front of me. And I don't mind admitting, friends, I weren't quite sure whether I should hit myself, run out the room, scream or whatever. And all of a sudden the Spirit said to me, my son, why do you doubt of that of spirit? And I said, because I've been called a fake, a fornicator, theatrical, not fit to serve the church. And the gentleman of spirit went, my boy, if 21 mediums sat within a circle and spirit was to materialize, 10 would die of shock. 10 would run out screaming, but the one that had been left would jump for joy. He said, because not all see, not all hear, not all feel. And believe me, friends, that was the biggest boost I could ever have. And the next day I went into church And didn't I give them a piece of my mind? So you see, when I talk about spirit, when I talk about the knowledge of spirit, I've experienced it. I've gone through it. And I want everyone to have that same experience, go through it. I'm lucky. I am going to tell you, friends, I'm very lucky. I've nurtured quite a few mediums that have gone forward. 2 of them have become international. And when I've taken them, but to explain to you, friends, this isn't me being big-headed, putting myself on a pedestal. I've taken them around to the churches with me to sit upon the platform. I've paid for their hotel. I've paid for their food and their drinks and asked nothing in return, not even put it onto the churches to help them to go forward. And I'm very lucky. And I say I'm very lucky because at this moment, I am nurturing a fantastic young man called Kyle Anderson. This young man, he's got a gift. And that gift, he's being nurtured slowly. He's coming forward and he's going to be a damn good medium in a few years' time. And he's doing it in a natural way. And he comes around the churches with me now. And he stands upon the platform, not giving messages. He's not ready for messages. But he opens up in prayer. The next stage, I want him to open up with philosophy. I want him to come forward naturally. I will help anybody, my friends. I will help anybody that wants to learn spiritualism in a true spiritual way. Because you see, this is what the movement's all about. Helping, sharing and helping each other. But I'm sorry, the one thing I will not do, I will not have my name put forward for someone to take money from someone that's struggling just to give them £1 in the pocket and to turn and say, I'm the great I am. Because friends, I've got to say this to you. I know I'm probably going to get told off, but I'm sorry I can't. I've got to say it. Yesterday, a lady asked me to share her post. I don't share anything, friends, and I really don't share anything. It's my people that do the write-ups for me, the admin. They deal with everything because I'm useless with the computer. But I'm going to explain. I was told I was on an ego trip. No, you won't find any ego in Barry because I'm too damn common, too down to earth, too honest and too spiritual. I like to help in the natural way. And I know, friends, that people will turn around and say, but you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. I do what spirit tells me, not what man tells me. I go by my feelings that's inside me. So, my friends, we do go to the churches. We serve spirit, we serve God, we serve mankind. And that is what it's all about. So you see, if you're wanting to develop, my friends, by all means, you can come and ask me any question you like. And if I'm able to answer it, I will do. I've been asked many times, friends, to do workshops. I'm not a teacher. I am not a teacher, but I will help anybody and I'll do it for free. Because that's Barry. That's Barry. And, you know, I'm very lucky because, you know, every Friday we do a questions and answers with Spirit. And young Kyle runs this group on a Friday. And when we say it's questions and answers, you come into the group and you're allowed to put your name on a list. But the one thing you're not allowed to do is tell Kyle the question you want to ask. What happens is when Spirit comes forward, you're allowed to ask 2 questions. And once everybody has asked their 2 questions, if you've got another 2 and there's time to do it, you can ask another 2 questions, and you're talking directly to the Spirit, not to the host and not to me. So you see, my friends, I spoke as I have today, and no doubt I'll get a lot of criticism, but I don't care. And do you know why I don't care? Because all I'm doing is speaking out on behalf of God, on behalf of Spirit, and on behalf of all the good mediums that are out there. And there's some fantastic ones, and we want them to be recognized. I wish they would actually come on and do something like this and speak of their experiences, speak of their knowledge, and share what they've got for others. So, my friends, I want to thank you for taking the time and listening to my words. I also want to thank young Kyle again for allowing me to come on to this and doing it, and young Elaine as well, who's helping out. Friends, when you see me taking a service, don't walk away. Come and join the churches. Come in and see me work. When you see me work, then you'll see what I mean about Spirit taking control. So I'm going to say God bless to each and every one of you, and thank you from my heart to yours. God bless you.